the focus here was pretty clear, and it was, what's my next job? The constituencies that I started to focus on just to figure out my focus of my next job search were individuals who knew me well, individuals I respected, individuals who were well connected, so I was talking to connectors. So there's a real extensive process that we've actually documented that helped me get clarity of what I wanted to do next. I wanted to actually run something. I wanted to be a CEO. And in the process of being a CEO, I wanted to step out of the world of marketing into the role of somebody truly leading something. And I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do that at a very big company. I probably was going to have to do that at a smaller company. I began to think about my new goal much more clearly and succinctly, which was to go get a company to run. I think my money was going to run out in about a year, so I gave myself 6 months to do that, which was fantastic. The constituencies for this particular job were also quite broad. Venture capitalists became, I thought, high on the list. Entrepreneurs became high on the list. There was a nuance of my focus here. I wasn't just going to go work for any little company. I needed to work for a company where I would learn a lot. The intent of this was not to drop off of the radar and go start a small business and be financially successful. It was really to stay high somehow on the radar, even though I was going with a smaller enterprise. So I only was going to the big individuals. I remembered that I had met Sandy Kleiman years ago, and through a good pinging strategy, stayed in touch with Sandy. So reaching out to him was fairly easy. He was a venture capital and somebody who I respected and was well respected around the world for his new media enterprises. I also remembered having met Mike Milken through a nonprofit activity a long time ago. And I hadn't been able to stay in touch with him as readily. So what I did was I exercised some currency with Mike specific to his desire and focus on health and wellness. Over time, I had met Chad, the CEO of DuPont, the largest soy manufacturer in the world. And I reached out to Mike and suggested that the two of them should meet, because I know that Michael Milken feels very strongly that soy proteins are integral to his life success through prostate cancer. Those two coming together allowed me to find the role and the position of CEO of a innovative education and computer games company that was a company within Michael Milken's portfolio. Sandy was one of the individuals that was a real guide, mentor, and ambassador. When I moved out to Los Angeles for the actual role, I actually stayed in Sandy's home above his garage in a wonderful apartment with his family for a number of months until I settled in. So a true lifeline. There are a number of individuals during that search process that I reached out to. But don't forget as well your friends, your family. I look back to that time and I realize people like Ray Gallo, my best friend from Yale, and others were so crucial in helping me. Chad Smith, who really was pushing me so hard to go out and do something on my own outside of a big enterprise, even though he was a peer of mine at Starwood Hotels. He knew that ultimately I was going to be an entrepreneur. Those relationships were crucial. So as I knew I wanted to reach out to Michael Milken, the guy's not an easy guy to get a hold of. He's certainly not an easy guy. He's living across the country. I was in New York, he was in Los Angeles, and I wasn't jumping on jets flying across the country very much back then. I started with a simple email, and the subject header was, Mike, I want to introduce you to the CEO of DuPont. I led right up front in the subject line with the currency that I had. It wasn't long until I got a phone call with Mike, and very clearly we had a wonderful conversation. Of course, I had read everything I could about Mike, good publicity and the bad publicity. And I remember that very first call when I said to him how much I respected what he's done, and more importantly, how much I respected the recovery that his brand and what he's done has had in the marketplace, particularly around the wellness agenda. With that in mind, I think the combination of exercising early candor and letting him know that he had my deep admiration and respect went a very long way to creating that instant intimacy. As I was working with Mike, it was clear that this was not my last job. I knew I would be a job seeker again. I knew that these relationships that I was creating and fostering with Mike on behalf of Yaya were my relationships that I could have for a lifetime. And that's one of the most important things for you to recognize is if you're a job seeker, the recognition that every relationship you create along the way, whether you're employed or unemployed, is a lifetime relationship of mutual success that is crucial for you. And letting that fall through your fingers is, I think, the greatest sin.